This is the CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable. Nick Quaglia and Marv Ezhan. A wild week in the divisional round this past weekend.
Wild.
Might have been the greatest weekend of football of all time.
That's
Every
what
time
people that's what
all right,
people are saying.
when we thought like that the ending of the Bucks and the Rams, like first of all, shows the ineptitude of the Bucks. And I'm sorry. I think people forgot that Bruce Arians used to catch some heat for not really being a great head coach. The fact that on a must-have-it play, Cooper Kupp got that wide open is unbelievable.
Yeah, a cover zero in that situation is not what you want to do.
You have a guy out there running around who's potentially, he's not gonna get it obviously, but he's in conversation for the MVP potentially. Just his name's been floated out there, and he gets that wide open. Are you kidding? That would have never happened in a Bill Belichick defense. I'm just saying, unless it's run by Steve Belichick, that's a totally different story. Uh, and then we move on to what literally might have been a top 5 greatest game of all time. I still think the greatest game of all time, at least that I've ever seen, is the Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl game. Uh, but oh my god, the Bills and the Chiefs game was
Wild.
unbelievable.
Wild. Beautiful. And I didn't even watch the first half of that game. I got the
You didn't
second
have
half.
to.
And the second half was a track meet. It was the craziest half of football I've ever watched.
So the total points was, I think when the game started it might have gotten to 55, but it was at least at 54 and a half. And it's the Bills and the Chiefs, and for a good chunk of that you're like, okay, this game's or like before the game you're like, okay, no way this doesn't go over. Last time these guys played each other, it was a high scoring game that really kind of slowed down, and that one should have gone over. This one, it was looking like it wasn't going to go over, and then the last 2 minutes of the game was unbelievable. The fact, you know, a lot of Patriots fans have a tough time admitting how good Patrick Mahomes is. Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. The fact that they had 13 seconds and that
It's
was enough time to get him in field goal range,
crazy.
that shouldn't even, honest to God, even if we had prime Tom Brady still, you see 13 seconds up on the clock, you're like, okay, there's no way. They're not
Third
gonna they're not gonna get up there.
31 teams were going to lose to the Bills.
Yes.
And the one team that
Yes.
wasn't was gonna be Kansas City Chiefs.
It was unbelievable. And just the fact too, like it came down to, I think the tying. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to send it to overtime, Harrison Butker had to make the kick, and Harrison Butker wasn't having a good night.
Yeah,
He
he
already
he had
missed
missed
2 kicks.
he had missed them, yep.
So when you see him going out there, and he's been one of the most reliable kickers over the past couple years, when you see him going out there after missing 2 kicks already on the night, you're like, okay, well this isn't a given, and he nailed it right down the middle.
Oh,
It was
once he made
unbelievable.
it once it was going overtime, you just kinda knew Kansas City was gonna win that toss, and you once they won the toss, you knew it was over. It was a done deal. Now the talks are gonna be about should they change the overtime rule here,
So
then
thank
this
you
and
for
that.
saying that, because I was just going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the overtime rules? Because conversation was obviously hot after, just like when the Patriots beat the Chiefs in overtime in the AFC Championship game a couple years ago in Kansas City on Tom Brady's amazing drive.
Yeah.
Kansas City fans and the players were kind of pissy about the rules then. And
Here's my
now,
thought. In the regular season, I like the rule. I like the rule, and then in the regular season, if you look at it, the split is really 50-50 on, like, if you win the toss, you're gonna win the game. It's not guaranteed. Compared to in the playoffs with this new rule, what is it, 10-1? That the team that wins it pretty much wins it all. I mean, so you could say that due to the regular season, I guess teams just tighten up in the playoffs and are not able to stop the opposing offenses. But in the playoffs, I think both teams should touch the ball at least once.
see,
I think
I agree. I think they could change, and it's not crazy to change the rules in the playoffs, because like you look at the NHL, that's exactly what they do in the NHL regular season. you'll go to a shootout. The playoffs, you don't. The playoffs, you play until it's over. And that game, like I'm going to give you my thoughts on overtime rules in a second, but you know, the that game was going in the way where you knew whoever got the toss, well, even if it was the Bills, whoever got the toss, they were going to win that game. That whole game and the Bills' season essentially came down to a coin flip.
So here's a crazy scenario. What if in the playoffs, right? The first team that scores, if it takes them 10 plays to score a touchdown, the opposing team has to score in 10 plays or less.
So, so they have to match it.
They have to
That would be
match it.
unbelievable. That would be unreal.
So if Kansas so if Kansas City scored in 4 plays, in order to continue the game, you have to score in 4 plays.
Well, you know
And
what I think the problem is?
if you don't match them, then it's game over.
You know what I think the problem is with with rules though in the NFL? It's like so baseball this year, the MLB, they are going to be using robot umps, which we've been calling for forever because these old ass umpires they can't call a strike and they ruin playoff games, they ruin regular season games. They're testing robot umps this year in AAA. So the league
Jesus.
directly below the MLB.
I'm not a fan of that though, Nick. I'm gonna be honest.
Robot umps?
I I like the human element of sports.
Listen, I like the human element too, but next time Angel Hernandez calls a strike 3 feet outside, I'm
Like,
gonna
but
lose my
it's
mind.
part of the game, man. It's part of the game. I don't want artificial things starting to rule the game.
I genuinely don't think baseball is ever gonna actually go to it in the majors.
I hope not.
I think like baseball and the NFL, I think they both have to go younger with the officials. Some of these guys they tried out there, they're old. I don't they there's no way these guys can see clearly at this point. They're old, they're a little chunky. Get these listen, I know they've had their problems too, but I like the way the NHL does it. These most of these guys are actually I don't even know if this is true. So I might be wrong on this, but I feel like a lot of these guys are old players. They've all got an attitude. They'll talk their crap when they need to, and they're generally fit. Like when you don't really see overly big NHL referees. They're all fit. They're all healthy. They all seem sharp. I think that's what we need in these other sports. But we're totally off topic here. What I was going to say about
But
the overtime.
I feel that too though, because maybe if Dallas had a younger ref, they might have saved themselves a second.
No, for real. Honestly.
And then that ref wasn't supposed to be finagling with that football. All you had to do was touch it and get the hell out the way.
And there have been plenty of scenarios too where people started tweeting out the videos. There have been plenty of scenarios on a hurry up where the ref never touched the football and it wasn't a problem. So
I haven't seen those videos, but damn.
I think it was an Aaron Rodgers video specifically, and he's a hot topic right now over the past couple of
Of
weeks.
course, it's an Aaron Rodgers.
um, but no, going back to the overtime rules, I do get the aspect from the defensive side because I've heard a lot of defensive players say this. Like AJ Hawk has said this on the Pat McAfee show. Darius Butler said this on the Pat McAfee show, and I agree with this. Stop them. Like if you want to win the
I'm not,
game,
yeah,
stop them.
I'm not opposed to that. Like, I'm not hampering for a new rule change because it's proven in the regular season that that's not guaranteed. If you win the toss, you're gonna win the game. Obviously, once the lights get a little bright in the playoffs, teams haven't been able to stop it.
Yeah.
It's obviously more intense. Your defense is more worn out in the playoffs, but if they change the rule, I'm okay with it. If they don't, I'm still all right because if they change the rule, they got to make it perfect, and it's
Oh, for
impossible
real.
to make
Yeah.
this thing perfect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's never going to be perfect. The referees this year, though, just seemed just so bad. I know we're not talking about the referees anymore, but I'm stuck on them now. The referees this year just seemed so bad. I don't know what it is. I get full time referees. Um, but anyway, we do have a main topic of the show tonight that we wanted to talk about.
We do.
After what we saw this weekend, listen, at one point in the season, the Patriots were the AFC favorites
You gotta let it go. They were
to
your
go to the Super
favorites.
Bowl.
They were
They were
your
the
favorites.
they no, they were the betting favorite to go to the
I
Super
told
Bowl.
I was on the show with you, and I think it was just you and me when we were on the show, and you wanted to talk Super Bowl. And what did I tell you, Nick?
Yeah, no, it was.
I was like, Nick, chill out.
I can't help myself. I got excited. But after what we saw this weekend, and even going back to the weekend before, when the
Right.
Bills beat the piss out of the Patriots, the main question is how far away are the Patriots from really contending in the AFC? Because it's not just the Bills and the Chiefs. You know, the Titans, depending on how they do, I think they're still a very solid team. They probably should have won this past weekend. Joey Burrow got sacked 9 times, and the Bengals still won the game. But that's another team. The Bengals shore up that offensive line. That's a solid team in Cincinnati. And then you look at the Patriots, there's a good amount of work that has to get done. So, Marv, that's the main question. How far away are the Patriots from being legitimate contenders again in the AFC?
If you were paying attention these playoffs and you were a Patriots fan, a Patriots coach, a Patriots player, you watched these games, these past playoffs in the AFC, and you said, "Yeah, this wasn't gonna be our year, no matter what. We just don't have the weapons." Patriots don't have the weapons to compete with the firepower that was displayed these past 2 weeks in the playoffs. Unless you were gonna fall into a bad coached Tennessee Titans game against the Cincinnati Bengals or maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, you weren't competing in these playoffs, man. If you look at the AFC between Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, quarterbacks with great arms and great weapons, elite weapons. All three of them have elite weapons that put up points in bunches.
You
You
know what
know,
they all have?
usually
I'm sorry,
what
they all
what
have an elite number 1 weapon.
yeah.
Patrick Mahomes
And,
has
and
like 4, but
and all three of their elite weapons put on a show, except for Stephon Diggs. It was just Josh Allen who just went crazy, and he found Gabriel Davis for 4 touchdowns, which is unfortunate. That's gonna get forgotten in history that Gabriel Davis went off and got 4 touchdowns.
dude, it was unbelievable. Are you drafting him next year in fantasy? Like, did he put up that kind of performance?
Yeah, of course he's getting drafted. Double-digit rounds, but he's getting drafted.
You think? Because there were points this year where Stephon Diggs dried up.
Gabriel Davis getting drafted. I don't know where, but I don't think he's gonna
I think
be
it's going to be in the top 8
okay,
rounds, not top 8
okay,
picks.
yeah, I can see that top 8 rounds. Maybe I'm exaggerating with, double digits, but yeah, Patriots don't measure up right now. When you watch what the elite talent that's being displayed, and then you gotta think about it. Joe Burrow's not Burrow, excuse me. Ah, why am I blanking on his name? Chargers Herbert. Justin
Justin Herbert.
Herbert wasn't in the playoffs either, and he's got some weapons as well, and their offense goes nuts. So if it wasn't for their coach calling timeout, that's another team. I don't know if you in the playoff setting, the way they were putting up points, you'll be able to. The Patriots, the end of the season, were not able to put up points. They were not able to be in a shootout. And that's what it's going to be now in 2022 football. 2023 is no longer a defensive game where you can win in the playoffs 13-10 and grind it out for 3 games. You can probably get that one in a series, but 3 games, there's gonna be a game where you need to put up 30, and right now the Patriots aren't able to do that.
Yeah, no, you need to put up 30 points, especially yeah, like you mentioned, up against these teams that just have unbelievable weapons. You look around the Kansas City Chiefs, even the big like you obviously know Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, but then even Hardman, I mean that man is fast.
Pringle,
Pringle,
uh,
that man is fast.
McKinnon,
Where did he? Why is he all of a sudden so good?
like, it's crazy how many weapons Kansas City Chiefs have.
And their defense got good this year.
They got better.
I don't know. They're gonna be so tough to beat for the rest of the way. But
But I hope my fault, Nick, to cut you off,
no,
but I hope that, the Patriots coaches, aka Bill Belichick, saw this and was like, "Yeah, there's no way. There's no way we can put up the same team that we did before and think that we can compete deep into the playoffs."
I think Because last year, Bill probably could have looked at the team and said, okay, well, my quarterback sucked. A lot of people like to put it on the weapons, but then we saw this year Cam Newton just wasn't good anymore. Like, sorry, that's just the fact. He just wasn't good anymore. He didn't have the weapons either. He probably would have been a little better with the Patriots, but he just wasn't good anymore. So that could have been his excuse mentally. You bring in your guy Mac Jones, who we think, I think he will be a guy in the
Solid.
AFC, and he's gonna be a very good quarterback for you going down the line. But we talked about this on last week's show. Bill should have looked at this AFC round, this divisional round last weekend, and like you said, Ben, like we need to change something because we're not going to compete the way that we're built right now. You look at these other teams and they just have weapons. You look at the Patriots and they have weapons where if you took a Tom Brady a couple years ago, you're probably still in it. You're probably in the AFC Championship game. You got two tight ends, two solid tight ends. You got some solid receivers. Like that's where Tom Brady elevates those players. But your quarterback isn't Tom Brady anymore. It's Mac Jones, and who knows what his ceiling is. He doesn't have a strong arm. He was a rookie this year. You don't know what his ceiling is. So if you want to compete, Marv, I'm telling you, I better see Calvin Ridley in a Patriots uniform next season.
Michael
Because if you
Thomas, I heard
don't,
his name,
but
heard his
is
name
he
coming
still
around.
viable? Is he still good?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Calvin Ridley, we know at least is still good.
Right.
Michael Thomas, I feel like he's been a disappointment, especially in the fantasy world, because we love our fantasy. He's been a disappointment the past few years. But get me a Calvin Ridley. Maybe draft. Don't draft somebody. It's
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. You can make some legitimate upgrades. Nelson Aguilar should not be your top guy on the outside. He just shouldn't. You should get somebody like Calvin Ridley. And if you do that, that's a totally different game, a totally different story. And you upgrade the defense.
And I still think you have a sleeping monster with Jonnu Smith.
I do too. We know how talented he is. He just, for whatever reason, he just couldn't get it going this year. But as far as it goes with the main question of the night, like how far off are they? I think
2 years.
they're
2 years. I think you need to know what you have with Mac Jones.
yeah. I think third year really settled in. Mac Jones, that's the team. If you have the weapons around him, if you have a team that's built around him, that's the case. Then I think you do have a team that can compete. If it's going to be next year, you have to make some serious moves. Like you have to get a Calvin Ridley. You have to really upgrade the defense and get younger and get faster, get guys who are not going to wear down by the end of the year. Because now we've seen that twice over the past 3 years. Last year, I don't really count, but Tom Brady's final year, the Boogeymen, that team was a wagon defensively for like 8-9 years. I mean, 8-9 weeks. And then they just slowed down. Kind of the same thing that happened this year.
Yep.
Wagons, and then they just slowed down. I still want to know if Matt Judon had an injury because he just disappeared.
Gone. I mean, you're talking about those linebackers and the boogeyman, free agents. Hightower's a free agent. I believe
Hightower's got to retire.
Bentley's a free agent. I think Collins is a free agent. Like it's time to just revamp that whole system of linebackers.
I don't know. I don't know how much money he can spend this year, but Bill's got to spend some money defensively.
The thing is about the money being spent. The majority of that money, if they pay JC Jackson, is going to be gone. Once you pay JC Jackson, which I think you need to do, especially in the AFC.
Oh yeah, what do you who are you going to put back there?
But the thing is, JC Jackson's an A corner, except when he faces the Buffalo Bills. And who do you see the most in the AFC East? Of the damn Buffalo Bills.
You know what? So I love JC Jackson. I do. But I see him as I loved the combination of Stephon Gilmore and JC Jackson next to each other because Stephon Gilmore is like that high tier A
Yeah,
cornerback.
of
JC
course.
Jackson, he's definitely in the A tier, but it's lower than that. So like that connection right there was perfect. You at least need to put somebody next to him that you can also fully trust.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully I don't know. Hopefully they can do it because I want to go back to winning because everybody else stinks. Although the Celtics are putting it together.
Hmm, let's not. Let's not get too funky now.
No, you know my thoughts on the Celtics, man. Those guys
Yeah, I
soft.
mean, they might. I know it's not a Celtics podcast, but they might have passed on their bad juju to Washington. I don't know if you saw what happened to Washington, and they blew a 35-point lead. But ever since the Celtics beat them, things have been a little different with us.
I I want Jalen Jason to be able to work, and they worked last night. I'm a huge Jalen Brown guy. He's my favorite player, probably in the league. I love Jalen Brown. I just need these two to work because I'm so tired of the same conversation every week. Can Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown play together? Stop making the headlines. They're going to stay together. I don't think the team's going to split them up. But hey, this is the Patriots show.
I mean, when the Patriots are off, man, we have a little leeway. We could talk a little other sports. One
Real
last,
quick.
go
So
ahead.
I was going to say before we wrap up, who wins this weekend? So we got
This
49ers,
weekend,
49ers,
I'm
Rams, Chiefs, Bengals.
I'm going with my heart. I'm not going with my head. Bengals against the Rams. Let's go, Joe Burrow, baby.
See, I'm picking the Bengals too. They beat
Let's go,
the
Burrow.
Chiefs before the playoffs started.
Listen, man, I had the if you guys go back to other podcasts, I had the Bengals winning. So I'm gonna keep riding that wave and having the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl. And then that Jimmy Garoppolo luck, whatever luck he got from Tom Brady that's rubbed off on him, that shit ends now. He is putrid.
I'm picking the 49ers in the AFC.
Like, and they could win. The 49ers could
They're
win, but
It's that
Jimmy
defense. They don't go
Garoppolo,
away.
Jimmy Garoppolo makes, and it happens every week. It doesn't fail. He'll make two boneheaded plays that will cost him the team, but yet they find a way to win.
Now here's my question. If you're the Colts and you have the option, who do you take, Carson Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo?
What's the difference?
Well, one of them doesn't run around and break his ankles every 3 plays in Carson Wentz.
They
But
both get
Jimmy
they
Garoppolo
both
gets hurt every game, so
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking. What's the difference? They're both injury prone. They both got talent. I think if you look at talent wise, Carson Wentz more talented of a thrower than Jimmy Garoppolo.
but I think Jimmy makes less bonehead plays.
Ah, I don't know, man. Jimmy makes some boneheaded plays.
But you know what Jimmy's good at? We've seen it now for the past couple years.
Oh
Just
yeah,
handing
you're
the
gonna
ball off.
hit. They both. What's the difference? That's a good poll. That's a great question because I honestly don't know if you put. Okay, now that I thought about it, if I put Carson Wentz with the 49ers, I don't know if they're making it.
No, I know. I don't think they are.
Yeah, you're right. You got that. You got that.
I think Jimmy's safer, but he
Yeah.
also gets hurt all the time. So I don't know. I don't know. Let's wrap.
Here was my last
Oh
point.
yeah, okay.
I think the Patriots really missed. It's not like no hot take or anything, but the Patriots really missed James White.
I
Not
thought you were
have
gonna say. I think the Patriots really miss Tom Brady.
yeah, of course. But they missed James White in the end of this year. Just when the pressure started to get to Mac, there was no one he could dump the ball off to.
Yeah.
And that was huge for Tom Brady in the years when he had a Edelman and he had a James White. They didn't have any of that this year at all. Pressure came and Mac didn't know who to throw to, try to force the ball into Hunter Henry or Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, he was throwing it to people who weren't open.
Yeah,
It became a problem. Yeah, you're right. If is James White coming back?
I believe so. He's gonna be 30.
I feel like he's so old.
Yeah, he's
But 30
he's
for a running back's pretty old at this point.
he'll he'll be all right. He'll be serviceable.
Bring him back in. Get a vet. Bring a veteran back in. All right. CLNS Media, Patriots Roundtable, Nick Quaglia and Marv Ezhan, Mike Molyneux will be back next week. I think. I don't know. Probably. Guys, we will talk to you next week. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.
Peace.